Come on after that. I was supposed to be on much later in the program, and it's like putting an accountant on after a movie star. So anyway, that was that was very inspiring. I sat and I guess I got to get out of the light here. I have to be in the light? Over here. Okay. Do I have to be on the stage? Oh, okay. All right. I have to be able to see a bit of my presentation too. So anyway, it is hard coming on after that with that kind of energy and everything. I'm going to be giving you a few stats, and you know, as soon as we put something that says government in with entrepreneurship, it has a weird connotation to it. But I'll try and make it somewhat exciting for you. How am I advancing this?
Isn't that just the battery for the microphone?
Probably.
It is.
Okay.
Just put it in your pocket. That doesn't control that.
Don't have a pocket.
Just clip it. It should have a clip.
Yeah.
You just clip it. That's it.
Got it. Has anybody got a clicker? Perfect. All right. So what we're going to be talking about here today, I head up the Entrepreneurship Center at the University of Manitoba. For those of you who don't know where Winnipeg is in the geographic center of Canada. And I head up the Entrepreneurship Center there, but I also co-lead something called the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub. And part of that, sometimes what you have to do in order to enable female entrepreneurs or anyone is you have to have the correct stats, you have to understand what's occurring within the ecosystem and everything, so you can develop programs that actually support women and support anything that you're doing. So knowledge is power. Where you have some of this information, you can make logical decisions about what kind of supports and everything you can do. So it is a little bit of a journey. I can tell you that the government of Canada initiated an overall strategy in 2018, and let's see if I can make this go. All right. What am I clicking?
The arrows. Oh, maybe the arrows. You should have an arrow.
Yeah, well. Nope. It's not just me, thank God. Okay. Okay, no, we have to go back to my USB. No, I have to go back to my USB. Okay, I'm gonna start talking. Can you get that loaded?
You mean the previous one?
Yeah. Because I updated on that one. So I'll tell you a little bit about 2018. The government of Canada said, we know that with respect to women in entrepreneurship, that we are severely underdeveloped in terms of our ability to get that thing rolling. We also know if we could encourage, enable, and create the infrastructure in order to support women in entrepreneurship, that annually we could add $2 billion to GDP every year. That's a significant, I think that might be looking good. Okay. Yeah, that's the one. No, that's not the one. We're getting darn close, aren't we? All right. That picture keeps on coming up with me with the horse. This one.
This is correct, right?
Yep. Okay. All right. I've already talked about 2018 Canadian government. They launched, and by the way, just for your information, unlike the US, which is 330 million, Canada is 33 million spread out over 5,000 miles coast to coast. It's one of the largest landmass countries in the world, but a very small population base. So whatever we do, we have to do well, and we have to do in a coordinated fashion. So the government launched and financially supported the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, and it aims to increase women entrepreneurs' access in financing, talent, networks, and expertise. And West represents over $6 billion in investments and commitments in an ambitious whole government strategy aiming to help double the number of women-led businesses in Canada by 2025. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of support and everything that has to go into play in order to enable women and provide them the supports. The women have to make it happen at an individual level, but if this isn't there, it's a struggle. So then, all right. 20% increase in total revenues among majority-owned women enterprises will contribute $2 billion annually to the Canadian GDP, which is a significant amount for a small population base. This is just one big chart that says, if you look over in the blue, there's something called a macro environment in support of women. It's government, infrastructure, media, culture. And then there is something called a meso environment, which is informed by the macro environment. The meso environment involves everything from the financial institutions that support women, socioeconomic trends, the enterprise support organizations, colleges and universities, all of those areas, all of the business networks that can help make or break in support of women in entrepreneurship. And then finally, at the individual level, is all of that stuff that, as Carissa talked about, you know, the concept of having someone say, I really want to do this, I want to make money, I want to be focused, I want to be my own boss, have those kind of skill sets, those desires that start making it happen. Those three, it starts with the individual, but all of this other stuff can either make or break, can get in your way, can make it more difficult and add barriers to your life as an entrepreneur. So the government took a whole ecosystem approach to this. And I'm apparently not good with this. They looked at 4 strategic focuses with respect to this strategy in Canada. The first one deals with venture capital initiative, and it really is projects to strengthen and build more of an inclusive venture capital environment for women. We'll get into a couple of stats, but quite frankly, in many countries, that is not strong. It is not existent. Women do not get their fair share with finances, and it's a proven fact that even if women do ask for it, which Carissa, I think, referred to that many women don't. They don't believe they have the right to ask, so they don't go there to begin with. But when they do get it, they get it at a much smaller level, if at all. And it's an unfair playing field there. The second one is an entrepreneurship loan fund, and it is funding that provides up to $50,000 to support women entrepreneurs, individual women entrepreneurs across the country. The third one is we have 10 provinces in Canada. We have something called Women Enterprise Centers in each one, and those centers specifically deal with women. They loan them money, they work with them on their business plans, they provide support, they provide connections and everything, but they were siloed across Canada. This fund actually put a layer on top, which is a national body that helps to connect the dots across Canada, and they help to share a number of the initiatives that each province are doing in that. So they're not, in a small country, you cannot cannibalize each other. You cannot be doing what everybody else is doing. You really have to focus on doing what you do best and then sharing. The fourth initiative, which is one I'm really here to talk to you about today, is the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub. And it's led by the Diversity Institute out of Toronto Metropolitan University, and it provides needed research, information, connectivity, and ensuring best practices across various organizations that provide support to women entrepreneurs. So we don't deal specifically with women entrepreneurs, but we provide that kind of support, information, and knowledge so that those organizations who do can do it better. So the role of WEC, I'll call it WEC from now on because it's a mouthful to say the whole thing, is to provide critical research and support, again, to women, not to women entrepreneurs, but to those organizations who do that, who support women entrepreneurs. Toronto Metropolitan University is a national hub, and then there are hubs right across Canada, because you can't have something at a national level telling everybody it's going to be done this way. We have 10 hubs across Canada. I co-lead the Manitoba hub, and it means that we can focus on regional and industry ecosystems within regional areas and really talk to them in a very different way than what you would have if you were at a national level. So to date, since its inception in 5 years, and please understand, there was virtually no research in Canada on women entrepreneurship at all. So in 5 years, they've done over 50 research papers, which really starts talking to the state of female entrepreneurship, and it starts talking to where the problems and the barriers are within the country and in the provincial landscape. We have launched our portal and our data website, and we've now got thousands of people in our database. So we've taken and we've been able to take that ecosystem and create a database that talks to what are those things available for you across Canada, so that it can benefit you and help you as you go through. Now that may be for the support groups, or it could be for individual entrepreneurs. But all of a sudden, when you have this kind of knowledge at your fingertips, it's a little easier to find what you need. Now, having said that, to go into a database of thousands and say, gee, I wonder what I need, is a little difficult. So this is just the start of at least gathering that information. We know what the landscape is. And it provides central site for housing the research and the events across Canada, as well as launching new information. There is one other important thing in Canada. We have, within the Canadian landscape, our Indigenous population is critically important. You may have heard things over a number of years as it relates to Indigenous in Canada. There is an arm of this which is housed right out of my hometown in Winnipeg. And it is an Indigenous WEC division, and it deals very specifically with Indigenous women only who face significant other barriers because they are Indigenous, because often they're rural. There are broadband challenges and everything for those individuals. So since its inception, a number of other initiatives, after they gathered the data, they started looking at what were some of the critical things. I'm going to talk a little bit later about the See It Be It campaign, sharing portal, the establishment of the strong regional supports, and just the continued driving of awareness and focus. So 50 research papers. I'm not going to show you every single one of them here, but you will see State of Women's Entrepreneurship in Canada. I have a few copies with me. It's got data, it's got stats. It really shows, compared to the state of male entrepreneurship, what it looks like, what the differences are, what the barriers are. And then each year has built upon that. So we started in 2020, first national report on the status of women as it relates to entrepreneurship. We had nothing before then. So each one of these builds upon. The second one in 2021, we really saw more of a focus on Indigenous, Black, and equity, that type of thing. So greater focus. We're starting to deeper dive and understand more the landscape. 2022 came, and we're just getting ready to launch the 2023 report soon. The next one is Asper Woman, and it is with respect to Indigenous entrepreneurship in Canada, so it goes through that same approach. And another one on Black women entrepreneurship in Canada. The immigrant entrepreneurship, you know, with many countries seeing immigration, immigrant entrepreneurship looks different. It's a different beast coming into a country with infrastructures, when you're trying to negotiate it, when you don't know, and you're coming with your own set of cultural values. It looks different, so we're trying to unwrap that. Disrupting capital through the crowd. There's a couple of grant programs. There's recognition or financing for women in Canada, gender and race. And this one was important. You know, we talk about the impact of the pandemic, and we all know it was significantly impactful, particularly on women. Women across the globe took a real hit on this one because of all those rolling factors that make it harder. So I have my own business, and all of a sudden the pandemic comes, I'm shut down, or hey, I can still conduct my business, but I can't get my kids into daycare. So, you know, every country looked differently, but this really put a dent in female entrepreneurship in Canada and across the world, and we've studied that. So a couple of stats without being obnoxious about it. 15.6% of small and medium-sized businesses in Canada with at least one employee are majority owned by women. 15.6%. And oh, by the way, you'll see this other stat over here, 13% of Canadian women are entrepreneurs. They are not considered an entrepreneur under the way we count female entrepreneurship if they don't have at least one employee. But we have 37.4% of self-employed women in Canada who are not considered entrepreneurs just because of one little thing that says you don't have a employee. But I would argue that if you went out and started your own business, whether you had an employee or not, you're an entrepreneur. So, you know, all of this stuff matters because funding and everything else, government programs, are provided based on this nonsense. And it's really important to understand these statistics because you can't fix and develop programming and support systems if you don't know how it's being defined. Women are a larger percent of new business, but the companies are smaller, and in Canada, they are less likely to be high growth, and often they don't export, they are smaller in scope, and so you don't see that growth potential and that scaling up. 92.7% are micro firms with less than 20 employees. So often we see women that have started their own business, but they tend to be a little bit more, they stay within a range. And 78% of self-employed women have no paid help versus 65.7% for men. Women are less likely to seek and receive financing, and you talked about that, Carissa, and less likely to export. And these are important things. If I'm afraid to ask for help, I'm not going to get it. It's as simple as that. And so when you look at these types of statistics, and it's not atypical from other places around the world, what we see is that's a critical thing, because I don't ask. And then when I do go for ask, there are definite systemic barriers with respect to women regarding financing and funding. And it's called, first of all, women are not listened to with the same respect in terms of their ideas and their approach to venture capitalists. The second thing is, quite frankly, when they are listened to, they get a fraction of what occurs with most male entrepreneurs. And there's another thing, and that is when we talk about, I'm just going to go to the bottom box here, women are underrepresented in STEM-related businesses. So all of a sudden, tech, all of that type of stuff in there, science, and women tend to be more in the retail end of the business, the helping professions and everything else, which are typically more underpaid and typically more undervalued. So if you're not there, you're not going to get some of the funding and everything that often will occur with men. Women in agriculture, particularly in Canada, interesting enough, who share ownership of massive multi-million-dollar farms, are not listed as joint entrepreneurs with their husband. It's their husband. And many women don't, they're there working the farm equally with their husbands, and some of these are big farms, and they are not recognized as an entrepreneur. And, again, I've already talked about the racialized women, immigrants and rural women face even greater barriers. In rural in Canada, we have a broadband problem. As soon as you get out of the major cities, and most of the major cities are within an hour of the Canadian-American border. Everything else there, it's north, and it's not connected well. So they're dealing with more problems that way. And subsequent reports, I've already talked about, more of the problems that racialized women and everything face. So what we have been doing is we've been creating a foundation and sharing research. We've mapped the Canadian ecosystem. We now have a greater understanding of the supports that are out there and how they can be shared. We have the regional hubs. I chair a monthly roundtable meeting with all of any organization who is providing support for women. During the pandemic, it was critically important because all of a sudden, governments were giving out cash. I know ours were. And, there was no infrastructure to be able to properly tell people about that. We got our organizations together on a monthly basis, and they were sharing in real time as they were going through solving problems, particularly as it relates to women, and trying to get them to the point of providing the services that they needed in real time. And then we're the essential connector for sharing of information. The establishment of the Indigenous, it was a very specific focus. Our one individual went across the country to every province, having meetings with Indigenous entrepreneurs in every single instance. She has single-handedly drawn the country together as it relates to Indigenous women. Okay, when I Google Who is an entrepreneur? This is what we come up with. This is what it looks like. So this is really tough because, you know, I'm involved not only in entrepreneurship, but I'm on boards, I do different things like that. It's the same argument no matter what. If you're a CEO, where are the pictures of the women CEO? Where are the pictures of the women entrepreneurs? Where are the pictures of women on boards so that when I look at a board and somebody says, do you want to be on this board to represent women? If there's no women on the board, you don't want to go on that board. It's not fun. So when you look at this, this was an important thing, and we actually launched a campaign called the See It, Be It campaign. Now we have a database of over 1,000, which again, we're a small country, but we have a database of over 1,000 women entrepreneurs where we actually highlight these women. But the initial campaign launched across Canada highlighted 20 women. Anybody knows of the singer Celine Dion? Okay. So all of a sudden her picture is in there because she's a frickin' great entrepreneur. She's worth multi-millions. It's not just singing. She does many, many other things. We don't know about her. And there she was on the front page of the Globe and Mail and everything, alongside of some great other women from across Canada that are multi-millionaires and really, really driving the bus forward. But we don't know about them because we don't see them. We say, hey, who's a great entrepreneur? And we think Mark Zuckerberg. We don't think Celine Dion. So, you know, it's very exciting when we see now thousands of women being profiled, because if you're a woman, and it's not just like the multi-millionaire women, we have to profile women who I look at, and if I've never done this before, I look at them and I say, I can be you too. Yeah. That's what's important. Yeah. All right. So you know, we've continued on this program. We continue to build the database, and I do, you know, encourage anybody to go to our website, WEKH.ca. It's super simple, WEKH.ca, and you'll be able to see some of this stuff. Just a little bit, Diversity Institute, when it talks about diversity, I won't go into this in great detail, but they actually have a model that deep dives into diversity within organizations. They will actually go in and help organizations determine where they are on an EDI kind of concept, and actually help them say, what do you need to tackle first in order to move this forward? That's a great tool. We do a number of other things in terms of like demystifying incorporation, all those things that are more specific to women because the barriers are there in a greater, to a greater degree. So we're hot and heavy into a lot of this. We have something called the Sharing Platform. It's a peer-to-peer platform. Women entrepreneurs, women who have been there before. Women entrepreneurs say, I have problems. Can you help me with this? Women entrepreneurs who have been there before go back and they self-select and they help and they encourage one another. And that is open to all women right across Canada. So improvement is evident. I know it looks tiny, but it takes a lot to move a slow-moving barge and turn it around. So what we have are women-owned SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, are now at 16.8% versus 15.6%. It's only 1%, but it's in the right direction. The total early stage, this is a tricky little bit, but its total early stage activity was 65% of the same rate for men in 2021. It's now at 81%, which means more women are engaging in entrepreneurship. The gender innovation gap has narrowed with women-owned businesses where they're focusing more on innovation and improving organizational processes. Women aren't good at that. in terms of their businesses. Like, they're not innovating, they're in there being the coach instead of being the person who drives the bus. And so we're seeing more of that. And both of their rates are now at 14.5%. I don't know exactly what that signifies, but it's an improvement. Women SMEs are surpassing men SMEs regarding the adoption of marketing innovation. And that was very much driven by the pandemic because you had to rise to that challenge. 1/2 of early stage and 1/3 of established women entrepreneurs have increased their digital technology base. That is an interesting step because women weren't doing that before in Canada, but they are focused on it now. And the proportion of self-employed women in professional, scientific, and tech services, this is a critical one, rose to 17.1% in 2022 from 15% in 2021. So all in the right direction. Again, we've done heavy lifting for research. We will continue to build upon that. The national database continues to grow. When you share information, you connect people. I can't stress that enough. The activities continue to grow across Canada. The initiative was meant to establish a focus and raise profile, change culture, and embed it within the Canadian system, and I think it's headed in the right direction. So that's a little bit about our website. I will say we have Joelle Foster, who is my partner back here. Joelle is in the entrepreneurship ecosystem incubator and accelerator business, and they have just launched an amazing new initiative, which is the We Lab for women, very, very focused on just helping women in a critical way. Joelle, did you want to chime in on that at all?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm the founder and CEO for Northwest Technology Exchange. It's a business incubator accelerator, and we run the largest fabrication lab in North America. So if you want a prototype event, I'm your girl. We launched something called We Lab, so we are trying to encourage more women to start tech companies. Because we know that when women start companies, yeah. So and then I brought this. We have launched a global entrepreneurship initiative. It's free. We've got 24 on-demand webinars about doing business in Canada. So if you want to start a subsidiary or something in Canada, you see all the programs that we have. It's incredible. You can go on. You can be involved in this. And Chris, I loved your talk. And a lot of our webinars are about biases. So if you're coming from a country where you maybe suppressive, where you're a woman that faces a lot of challenges, we talk about the biases, about working in Canada, maybe with men, leadership, confidence. But then we also go into the business model canvas and all of that fun stuff. So you can find those over there. If you want to just talk to me, Debra and I are here. We're all about empowerment.
Yep. Thank you. So, my main message here is this isn't sexy stuff, but it's stuff we have to know. And wherever you are in this world, please, please dig into this information. If you start doing stuff and you don't have a firm understanding of what that landscape looks like, you're blowing in the wind. And you have to be careful because we talk about doing those things that will create change and create a different kind of environment. Just educate yourself that way because it really makes a difference. And I know in Canada that from that perspective, we're focused more and more on doing those things that can create a difference in this world. And there are measures out there we'll be able to tell how successful we've been. It takes a while. It takes years, but if you don't get started, you don't get there. So that. Do we have time for questions, or am I done?
We have time for 2 questions.
2 questions. Anybody? Yes.
So I have a question. So I like your talk a lot because I'm a woman in tech, and especially in tech, it's an international
Yes.
Do you cooperate with other countries? Because in learning you need in tech, as you said, in Canada, in Holland, in the US, do you have cooperation? You exchange knowledge?
We exchange knowledge, but I think I think there is some, like, there's the World Competitive Forum index, which will show, where different countries fall on the entrepreneurship innovation scales. The US is, not surprisingly, right at the top. Canada is 14th. I'm not sure where some of the other countries are. We do try and share. We just had a fantastic, if you guys have never met the FKA from Iceland, these women are like, they're off the chart women who support women. And they have an initiative, again, driven by the government, but these women are a little bit feisty. And they really drive it to a whole new level. There's some amazing stuff that's happening there as in a small country where they can really drive that type of thing. They've been around talking to a number of people. So we are sharing where we can, but that's what this is all about. When you hear this stuff, you all of a sudden understand that maybe there's more I have to understand in order, and there's so much learning out there we can share. Yes? Sorry, do we? Yes. Do we work with, right at this stage of the game, this is a Canadian study. And so, I think there are initiatives that work between countries and everything, but I'm not 100% familiar with what they are. I think we're seeing more and more sharing. I mean, what is this about, right? So I think we're seeing more sharing. So as we hear more about it, we need to be saying, what's happening that's great over there, and bring those people in and talk to them. I've got a group coming in from East Jerusalem next month, and they're going to be talking about an incredible initiative that is happening between the Israeli government, it's the Israeli chamber and women in East Jerusalem, where they're helping them start businesses and providing microfunds for them. So there's so many good stuff happening. We need to share more and more and more. But as to your question, I'm not sure exactly what's happening out there. Thank you. All right. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's a photo op.
Just love these, don't we?
Oh, just a bit, yeah, okay. Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you. Oh.